If I know better, why am I not doing better? I mean, it is arguably the most frustrating universal question in the human experience.
It really is.
Think about it. We have all the data. We have the diet plans, the budget apps, the relationship advice. We know exactly what to do. And yet, so often, we don't.
It's that gap, right? The gap between information and execution. And for most people, that gap is where dreams go to die. We get stuck in the knowing phase.
Oh, yeah, collecting books, saving articles.
Exactly, and never actually cross the bridge to the doing phase.
That is the exact friction point we are exploring today. We are doing a deep dive into a really, really unique source. It's a book titled, If I Know Better, Why Am I Not Doing Better? By Jimmy Perez.
Right.
But calling it a book, it feels almost too formal. It reads more like a raw data dump from a father's heart.
It really does. This isn't some guru on a mountaintop trying to hit the bestseller list. Perez wrote this collection of essays and letters and notes over 20 years, and it was specifically for his 3 sons. Yeah, it was his way of creating a manual for life to leave behind. He basically said, here's how I messed up, here's how I fixed it, please don't make the same mistakes.
Which changes the tone completely. It's not commercial, it's urgent. He calls the core concept cracking the autopilot code. And that metaphor really landed for me. The idea that most of us aren't actually driving our lives, we're just passengers in a car following a GPS route that was programmed by, our childhood, our traumas, society.
Right. Perez argues that we are, and this is his phrase, conditioned animals. We think we're making choices, but like 90% of the time we're just reacting based on old code.
Reacting to stress the way our parents did.
Exactly. Or reacting to failure the way we were taught in school. The whole mission of this deep dive is to figure out how to disconnect that autopilot. How do we grab the wheel and actually use the tools we have?
Okay, well, if we're going to grab the wheel, we have to look at the map first. And Perez starts with a pretty heavy concept, rewriting the narrative. He seems to believe the stories we tell ourselves are more powerful than the actual facts of our lives.
He is adamant about this. He believes that the story is the operating system. If the OS is buggy, it doesn't matter how good the hardware is. And he uses his own life as the case study here. And honestly, it's a brutal starting point.
Yeah, walk us through that, because he didn't exactly have a white picket fence upbringing.
Not at all. For decades, the story Perez told himself was basically, I am a victim. His father died when he was very young. His mother, who was struggling, sent him away to live with others for a while.
Okay.
His older siblings eventually left, joined the military, started their own lives. So his internal narrative was, I was abandoned, I was unwanted, I am alone.
And when you tell yourself that story every single day, when you wake up and put on that abandoned kid identity, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Precisely. It justified his anger. It justified the depression and a lot of the bad decisions he made as a young man. It was the lens through which he saw everything.
So if someone slighted him, it wasn't just a mistake.
No, it was more proof. More proof that the world was against him. It validated his suffering.
But here's the part I found fascinating. The facts didn't change. He couldn't go back and change what happened. But he somehow flipped the script.
He had a realization, a total. It was a complete paradigm shift. He looked at those same facts and just decided to interpret them differently. The news story became, my father passed away, yes, a tragedy, but my mother sent me away because she loved me enough to want me in a safer environment. My siblings left to build lives, not to escape me.
So I wasn't abandoned. I was the beneficiary of sacrifice.
Exactly.
That is a massive pivot. It almost sounds like, is he just gaslighting himself? Or is this genuine reframing? Because I can hear someone listening and thinking, well, isn't that just lying to yourself to feel better?
That's the skeptical question, right? Is it just positive thinking? Perez would argue it's actually about accuracy. The victim story was just one interpretation, and it was a destructive one. The survivor story is equally supported by the facts, maybe even more so, but it's constructive.
He quotes Steve Jobs in there.
He does. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards.
So we are the editors of our own biography. We decide which clips make the final cut.
Exactly. You have editorial control. If the story you're telling yourself, I'm bad at math, I'm unlucky in love, if it isn't serving you, you have the power to edit the script. You can't change the events, but the meaning you give them is entirely up to you.
And he uses that famous two wolves legend to illustrate this, doesn't he?
He does. It's an old concept, but he applies it so well. Inside everyone, two wolves are fighting. One is the bad wolf anger, ego, self-pity. The other is the good wolf joy, peace, hope, discipline.
And the winner is the one you feed.
Right. But Perez takes it a step further. He admits that for years, he was throwing stakes to the bad wolf. He thought his trauma gave him a free pass to be angry. He realized that rewriting the narrative is essentially making a conscious choice to starve that bad wolf.
Even when it feels righteous to feed it. That's the hard part. It feels good to be the victim sometimes. It absolves you of responsibility.
Oh, absolutely. If it's the world's fault, then I don't have to do the work. I can just sit here and wait for an apology that's never coming.
And that's the trap.
That's the trap. The second you stop being the victim, the pressure is on. If you're the hero of this story, you have to act like one. You got to pick up the sword and fight the dragon.
Which segues perfectly into the next big piece of this. Action. Because you can have the best story in the world, but if you just sit on the couch, nothing changes. And Perez has a bone to pick with a very famous saying. We've all heard, practice makes perfect. He says that's just wrong.
He says practice is perfect.
Explain that distinction. It sounds like semantics, but it feels like a really heavy psychological shift.
Oh, it's huge. Think about practice makes perfect. It implies that the value of what you're doing is in the future. You're suffering now so that one day you'll be perfect. It creates this gap where you constantly feel inadequate.
Because you're not there yet.
You're not there yet. It breeds anxiety because you're judging your day one against someone else's day 1,000.
And paralysis. If I go to the gym for a week and I don't look like The Rock, I quit.
Exactly. Perez argues that if you adopt the mindset that practice is perfect, then the victory is in the doing. Did you go to the gym? Yes. Then that is perfection. The workout could have been sloppy, you could have been tired, but the act of showing up was the win. The process is the goal.
So it moves the dopamine hit from the result to the action. You win the moment you tie your shoes.
Correct. And to sustain that action, he introduces a concept that I think is the most practical tool in the whole book. He calls it no 0 days.
I've seen this floating around online, but Perez really operationalizes it. What's a 0 day?
A 0 day is a day where you do absolutely nothing to move toward your goal. Perez says these are forbidden.
Okay, but let's be real. Sometimes you're sick, or you're working a 14-hour shift. Is he saying we have to grind 24/7? Because that leads to burnout fast.
No, and that's the beauty of it. He's not saying maximize every day. He's saying no zeros. So if your goal is to write a book and you are exhausted, you don't write a chapter. You write one sentence. One sentence. If you want to get fit, you don't have to run a 5K. You do 5 push-ups in your pajamas, you run to the stop sign and walk back.
So the bar is set so low that you basically can't say no.
It's floor level,
Yeah.
but the psychology is deep. It preserves the chain. It maintains your identity. The moment you have a 0 day, you break the momentum, and it makes it so much easier to have another one.
It's like casting a vote for the person you want to be.
Precisely. And Perez links this directly to motivation. He basically calls motivation a fairy tale. His word for it is pixie dust.
That's a relief, actually, because I think a lot of us sit around waiting to feel like working out. We wait for that lightning bolt.
And Perez says that feeling is never coming. Or if it does, it's totally unreliable. He says motivation doesn't exist until you create it through discipline. Action leads to motivation, not the other way around.
You don't wait to feel good to run. You run to feel good.
Yes. And he backs this up with his own physical transformation, which is pretty wild. He was not a track star to begin with.
Far from it, right?
Far from it. He was 250 pounds, a smoker for 2 decades, a heavy drinker, couldn't run a mile without thinking he was going to die. But he decided to become a runner. And he draws a lot of inspiration here from David Goggins.
The Navy SEAL guy. The can't hurt me guy.
The very same. Perez looked at Goggins, who lost over 100 pounds in less than 2 months to get into SEAL training, and he realized that his own excuses were just garbage.
And so he started running.
Yeah, and he writes about hating it. His knees hurt, he was heavy, he was wheezing, but he just applied no 0 days.
And where did he end up? Because this isn't just about losing a few pounds.
He went from struggling to run around the block to running ultra marathons. We're talking 44 miles.
At 250 pounds.
At 250 pounds.
That is the definition of practice is perfect. He didn't wait to be thin to run. He ran to become the runner.
And he realized you can have excuses or you can have results, but you cannot have both. They're mutually exclusive. You have to pick one.
Okay, so we've rewritten the story. We're taking action with no 0 days. But Perez also offers this toolbox. These are specific, almost tactical techniques to handle that mental noise that tries to derail us. And the first one is his take on meditation, but it's not what I expected.
No lotus position here. He talks about tunnel vision, and he does it behind the wheel of a car.
Which, for legal reasons, we should probably clarify, He's not talking about driving with his eyes closed.
No, definitely not. Safety first. He's talking about inducing a flow state. He describes driving and focusing so intently on the mechanics of the road, the sound of the engine, the cockpit, that the rest of the world just falls away.
So it's active mindfulness. It's what extreme athletes describe.
Yes. He argues that meditation is just doing nothing by focusing on one thing. For some people, especially high-energy people, sitting still actually creates more noise in their head. The silence is deafening. So by engaging in a high-focus activity, he quiets that monkey mind. It stops the worry about the past and the future because the present moment demands 100% of his attention.
I think that's really validating for people who fail at traditional meditation.
Yeah.
But the next tool, this one is heavy. And I'll be honest, when I read it, I kind of recoiled. The apology letter.
It's the most radical tool in the box. He suggests writing a letter of apology to the person who hurt you the most, the abuser, the parent who left, the bully.
That feels completely backwards. Why on earth would I apologize to the person who wrecked my life? Shouldn't they be writing me a letter?
Logic says yes, but healing says otherwise. Perez argues that you aren't apologizing for their actions. You aren't saying, it's okay that you hurt me. You're apologizing to yourself via them for letting their actions define you for so long.
Can you give me an example of what that sounds like? I'm trying to wrap my head around the wording.
It sounds something like, I am sorry that I have given you rent-free space in my head for 20 years. I am sorry that I let your bad behavior dictate my happiness. I am sorry I used your actions as an excuse to not pursue my potential.
Wow. So it's taking ownership of the aftermath. It's saying, you broke it, but I've just been staring at the pieces instead of fixing it.
Exactly. It's cutting the cord. And here's the kicker. You do not send the letter.
You don't send it.
Never. This isn't for them. It's an exorcism for you. You write it, you pour all that poison onto the paper, and then you burn it or you bury it. It signifies the transition from victim of your actions to owner of my future.
That's incredibly powerful. It stops the waiting game. You aren't waiting for an apology that's never going to come. You're generating the closure yourself.
And that leads right into the third tool, which is about self-repair. The time travel visualization. This one is a tearjerker if you really do it.
Yeah, this one hits you right in the inner child.
Literally. The exercise is to close your eyes and visualize a specific moment in your childhood where you felt scared or alone or confused. Maybe you're 8 years old crying in your room. You visualize your current adult self walking into that room.
And what do?
You do what you needed back then. You pick that child up, you hug them, and you tell them the truth from the future. You say, I know you're scared, but you are going to make it. You are strong. You are loved. And all this pain, it's going to make you into a warrior. We survived this.
It's reparenting.
It is. We spend so much time looking for external validation, for someone else to tell us we're okay. Perez says, tell yourself, be the savior you were waiting for. It builds this incredible resilience.
So we have the internal work, the action, the tools. But we have to zoom out. Perez wrote this for his sons. This is fundamentally about leadership and legacy. He outlines a philosophy he calls Big Brother leadership.
This is a great model. Even if you aren't a big brother, you know the vibe. A good big brother loves you to death, but he will not let you get away with mediocrity.
He's the one who says, stop crying and get up.
Right. Not because he doesn't care, but because he knows you can. Perez says true leadership is painfully accountable. It's refusing to let people settle for less than they are capable of. It's seeing the greatness in someone before they see it themselves and holding them to that standard.
He uses the phrase, reach one, teach one.
That's the obligation. If you've navigated a minefield and survived, you have a moral duty to turn around and draw a map for the person coming behind you. You don't hoard wisdom.
And he raises the stakes on why we should do this. He drops some math that, frankly, it makes my brain hurt.
The probability of existence, it is just staggering. He cites a statistic that the odds of your specific genetic code coming into existence are something like 1 in 400 quadrillion.
400 quadrillion. That is a number I cannot even visualize. It's like winning the Powerball every day for centuries.
It's essentially zero. Statistically, you shouldn't be here. You are a walking, breathing impossibility, a miracle.
And his point is, how dare you be bored?
How dare you be mediocre? How dare you live on autopilot? If the universe conspired against infinite odds to put you here, living a passive life is the ultimate act of ingratitude.
That perspective shift really sets up his obsession with memento mori, remembering death. It's not about being morbid, it's about urgency.
He actually wrote his own obituary. And not just for fun. He did it to audit his life. He looked at what he had written and asked, Is this true today? Is this who I am?
It's a reality check. If you died today and your obituary says he watched a lot of Netflix and complained about his boss, that's a wake-up call.
Exactly. He wanted his to say he was a philosopher, a lover of wisdom, and a no-limit man. He wanted to be remembered by his sons as someone who squeezed every ounce of juice out of life.
Which brings us to the question that wraps up the entire philosophy, the heaven question. This is the one that really stops you in your tracks.
Set the scene for us.
Perez poses this scenario. You die. You're standing at the pearly gates. God looks at you, smiles, and asks a simple question. How was heaven?
And naturally, you're confused. You say, what do you mean? I'm here now. I thought this was heaven. I was waiting to get here.
And God says, no. Earth was heaven. I gave you a body to feel the sun, to taste food, to fall in love, to overcome struggle. That was the gift. That was the paradise.
Man, that hits hard. The idea that we are treating life like a waiting room.
Exactly. We spend our lives waiting for the weekend, waiting for retirement, waiting for the good part. And the realization is, this is the good part, the struggle, the confusion, the coffee in the morning, that is the heaven you are sent to experience.
It demands that you become an irrational optimist.
It does. It means you have to look at your problems and say, this is part of the texture of the experience. It forces you to be present because you realize this isn't a rehearsal. This is the show.
So to bring it all home, we've gone from rewriting the narrative from victim to hero, practice is perfect and no 0 days, the toolbox of tunnel vision and the apology letter, and finally realizing we're statistical miracles who need to wake up.
The core message is right there in the title. If I know better, why am I not doing better? The answer is because you haven't grabbed the wheel yet. You're still letting the old programming drive.
And the solution is to override the system.
Manually override today. Right now, do 5 push-ups, write the letter, change the story. Don't wait for the feeling.
Because the odds are 1 in 400 quadrillion that you're even here to make that choice.
Oh, don't waste the ticket.
That's the perfect summary.
But I want to leave everyone with one final thought to chew on. Something that builds on that heaven question, but maybe makes it a bit more practical for tomorrow morning.
Let's hear it.
We talked about God asking how was heaven, but imagine the question is even more specific. Imagine, he asks, did you use the toolbox I gave you?
Ooh, that's good.
We often pray for miracles, for luck, for things to get easier. But what if the miracle is that we already have the capacity, the resilience, the ability to forgive, the discipline packed inside of us? We have the toolbox. But so many of us are walking around with a lid closed, begging for a hammer while we're carrying one in our backpack.
That is the real tragedy, dying with a full toolbox.
Open the box, crack the code, be irrational. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.